One of Alton Towers' most successful seasons, Scarefest is brimming with eerie fun and spine-chilling scares. From spooktacular beginnings to AI-inspired panic, discover the haunting history of this annual Halloween tradition. Scarefest owes its success to Alton's first Halloween event, Spooktacular, which premiered in the year 2000. While there had been minor decorations and sometimes a show in previous years, the new millennium saw Alton Towers market its first true Halloween event. The focus shifted to Storybook Land, and Spooktacular on Ice premiered in the Big Top. At the time, it was the largest in-house production the resort had created, even featuring horse and motorcycle stunts. Tower Street got in on the action the following year, and was suitably decorated for the spooky season, with rides across the park staying open past sunset, to allow park visitors to experience night rides on their favourite attractions. Spooktacular on Ice returned to the park, with a new storyline to entertain guests. In 2002, the season was expanded, with an attraction that would define the event for years to come, Terror of the Towers. This live actor walkthrough, set inside the actual towers, was one of 4 similar attractions created across Tussauds parks. Its sheer scope was unlike anything usually seen in the UK. In fact, the final Gothic freezer scene was a literal maze with dead ends, and groups would often meet each other coming opposite ways. Terror of the Towers returned with a new theme the following year. Bloodfest Banquet invited guests to the home of the bloodthirsty master, and featured even more elaborate sets and improved scares. The event was due to return in 2004, but possibly due to budgetary cuts or legal disputes, Alton Towers took the decision to cancel Spooktacular partway through the season. Advertised as returning in 2006, Spooktacular was again cancelled partway through the season. Despite this, the hotel took the unusual decision to create their own small-scale attraction. Room 13 was created using Terror of the Towers theming, and was set up in the hotel's conference suite. Featuring a cast of only 5, the maze nevertheless was positively received by those who experienced it. After several years without a Halloween celebration at the park, a newly named event premiered at the resort. Rebranded as Scarefest, it would build on what had gone before. Favourites such as Terror of the Towers and Room 13 made a comeback, alongside new scares and the debut of mascot characters, the Freaky Four. Franklin, Phil, Skelvin and Patch hosted the family-friendly activities, while Scare Rooms and the Field of 1,000 Screams catered to those who wanted something more intense. The park's newest attraction even got in on the action, and Haunted Hollow Live added characters to the Woodland Walk, who would interact with brave travellers. One of the standout experiences was Scare Rooms, where select rooms at the Alton Towers Hotel were rethemed, with guests receiving unexpected nighttime visits from various creepy characters. However, it was the Field of 1,000 Screams that stole the show. Situated near the hotel, this maze received rave reviews from those who experienced it. Located in a cornfield, this story-driven adventure ramped up the tension through many scenes, culminating in a finale that had victims running for safety. Looking to build on the success of the previous year, Scarefest was back in 2008 with an even bigger lineup. Haunted Hollow Live was joined by Jewel Live, that saw the dark ride adding to the atmosphere with a selection of live actors hidden throughout. Over in the hotel grounds, the Field of 1,000 Screams was joined by new maze, the Boiler House, with its cramped industrial sets and more scare actors. Room 13 was no more, and Scare Rooms were replaced by the more family-friendly and less noisy trick-or-treat rooms at the hotel. Families were also catered for with a number of offerings, including the Haunting of Sir Algernon's Attic live show. 2009 followed the now successful formula, with many favourites returning. Terror of the Towers received a new storyline, What Lies Within, where you would become part of a team searching for missing urban explorers. The route was reversed, and the fresh theme brought new props, with an intense cage maze finale. Boiler House introduced a storyline featuring the infamous Hamble twins that had been hiding in the abandoned facility. Visitors could once again get lost in the corn maze, however the field would extract its last screams from unexpected guests this year. In 2010 the clowns came to town, with the Boiler House being joined by Carnival of Screams. Inside this sinister circus, visitors would venture through colourful and twisted rooms, filled with a band of crazy characters. More of the resort's attractions got in on the action, with Hex Live and 13 After Dark, which saw the new coaster's queue populated with actors. Jewel was even transformed into Skelvin's Haunted Adventure. However, this was almost identical to Jewel Live, apart from a new pre-show video. For 2011, the focus of the event shifted more towards the park. The hotel still received some theming, but the Boiler House and Carnival of Screams were moved to X Sector and filled the old Black Hole tent. They joined Terror of the Towers, which once again welcomed explorers to its claustrophobic corridors in search of what lies within. The Freaky Four continued to host family entertainment on the Trick or Treat stage, and the resort introduced their first scare zone. More free flow than mazes, and slightly less frightening, this was a great starter for those unsure of the frights contained in the more intense scare mazes. However, it was the last year that guests could experience any live attraction, with 13 After Dark ending its run. 2012 brought the Sanctuary to the resort. Probably Scarefest's most successful offering, this maze was used to promote the following year's new roller coaster. Dr. Kelman invited you to enter a twisted medical rehabilitation centre, overseen by the Ministry of Joy. Walking the wards of this facility, patients would encounter doctors and nurses who promised full normalisation. The carnival set up its big top in a new location, close to the hospitality suite, and the crazy clowns once again welcomed you to this unusual circus. While over in the Boiler House, the Hamble twins stalked guests for the final time. Terror of the Towers was offered free of charge for the last year, bringing the number of mazes at the resort to 4. Further surprises could still be found in the Zombies Scare Zone, as well as the usual frightening family fun. With the removal of the Boiler House, 2013 continued with 3 main mazes, although for the first time Carnival of Screams was included with admission. Following the opening of the Smiler, it was only fitting for the Sanctuary to admit more patients, and visitors could still face the Tower of the Towers. An extreme option was also introduced, and created a new level of scares. Younger ones could still enjoy trick-or-treating with Skelvin and friends, with a refresh of family shows. Dr. Kelman came out of retirement one last time in 2014, as the Sanctuary and Terror of the Towers were joined by new scare zone, Scary Tales. Scary Tales was an outdoor experience, where the misty woods were inhabited by twisted storybook characters. Unusually, guests could also spend the night in the towers themselves. The ultimate sleepover allowed curious explorers to discover the secrets and haunted happenings, while they experienced the towers overnight. It was also the first year of the Alton Ancestors, this popular flash mob dance group entertained around the park. 2015 proved a challenging year for the resort. However, Scarefest was back in October, featuring a massive overhaul. Family favourite shows returned, and this year Terror of the Towers was joined by 2 new mazes. Subspecies The Endgames was one of the most ambitious scare attractions in the event history, gone with a conga line-style grouping, with visitors entering an underground sewer system where the inhabitants would separate them from their groups. Having multiple routes and 2 different endings, the maze had overwhelmingly positive feedback. The Haunting of Molly Crow was another new concept, as guests were hooded while they explored a Victorian manor house. The blindfolds heightened senses, with audio and physical effects adding to the experience. Scare zones were also expanded. The Wraiths haunted in Nox Infernus within the Dark Forest, and the Phalanx took over Forbidden Valley as part of Dark Apocalypse. For even more extreme thrills, those brave enough could explore the mazes alone for the first time. Families could still enjoy the trick-or-treat stage or have storytime with Skelvin, while Patch and Franklin hosted their Ghoul School. For 2016, a new adventure began. Altonville Mine Tours took groups deep underground to discover the legend of the Skin Snatchers. A disfigured family inhabited an old abandoned mine and were on the lookout for victims in their skin. Terror of the Towers and Subspecies were both back, and for the first time families could experience a walkthrough. In House of Monsters, younger visitors could meet the curious inhabitants of a spooky house, as they passed room to room completing tasks in order to progress. A new scare zone, Freak Show, joined Dark Apocalypse. It seemed the sinister circus had returned, and the carnival misfits populated the walkway near the hospitality suite. The lineup the following year was largely unchanged. In 2017, in order to build the anticipation for a new roller coaster, the welcoming Be Chosen was added as a 4th maze. Putting guests in the centre of a festival hosted by primitive woodland dwellers, those brave enough experienced a hooded section and a finale thrusting them into the middle of a Burning Man ritual. This, however, would be the final year of Terror of the Towers. After 15 years of thrills, the last urban explorers discovered what lies within. For 2018, Altonville Mine Tours, Subspecies and The Welcoming all returned, joined by new maze Project 42. Located in the old Nemesis Subterra building, volunteers were called upon to help locate a missing scientist, but inside found test subjects infected by a mutating virus. Scare zones were no more, but a roaming band of freak show misfits did entertain guests. The Freaky Four became the Freaky Five, welcoming Gretel the Witch alongside favourite mascots Phil, Franklin, Skelvin and Patch. CBeebies Land even hosted a monster ball, and of course, no Scarefest would be complete without the Alton ancestors. 2019 brought two new experiences, adding to Project 42, Subspecies and the Mine Tours. The Attic saw curious travellers climb to the governess's domain to hear her tale, discovering what really became of the children under her care. Featuring a detailed story and immersive sets, this sequel culminated in an encounter with a demon. Darkest Depths transported guests aboard ghost ship The Mutiny for a sensory thrill that explored the sights, sounds and smells of the mysterious boat. This slightly more family-friendly scare maze was offered as an indirect replacement for House of Monsters. The Freaky Five still hosted the entertainment for young visitors, and the new Alton Towers dungeon was available as part of the lineup. With much uncertainty about the 2020 Scarefest due to the global pandemic, the resort still managed to pull off an event featuring its usual flair and attention to detail. Now staple returnees, Altonville Mine Tour and The Attic were rounded out with freak show Toxic Junkyard. This outdoor maze was created and erected in little over a month, borrowing old ideas and props from previous years, but coming together to create a chaotic and fun journey through a disused salvage yard populated by dark and scary clowns. Family favourite shows also returned, and Alton Towers premiered a brand new experience. For the first time, park guests could explore the gardens after nightfall to view the thousands of lights that illuminated and enhanced the unique part of the resort. There were little changes for 2021, with all mazes back once more. Entertainment focus shifted to the front lawns, using the stage that had been installed earlier in the season. A new interactive family attraction moved into the space next to the dungeons. Inside Trick or Treat Town, younger visitors could walk down Spooky Avenue, knocking on doors and collecting sweet treats from the residents behind. With a now familiar lineup, 2022 featured the usual Mine Tours, The Attic and Darkest Depths. Freak Show was replaced by a new concept, The Invitation. An audio experience, this new attraction took guests into an old tomb for a story told through multi-directional sound. Favourites Trick or Treat Town and Garden Lights Walk entertained families, while the Freaky Five and Alton Ancestors brought the fun. With the exception of Whispering Souls, most attractions were back for 2023, leading to some disappointment from fans, who were expecting a refresh. Despite this, Scare Zones made a long-awaited return, with the Bjornen welcoming believers in the shadow of the Wicker Man. A final addition was a collaboration with YouTuber Daz Games, in a Scare Maze escape room crossover with an intense 7-minute challenge. For 2024, the long-awaited renewal began. To coincide with Nemesis Reborn, and after 4 stale seasons, a new headline maze was introduced. Based on the Nemesis backstory, Compound takes visitors inside a Phalanx facility to experience the secretive experiments of the operatives within. Joining the usual family lineup, Amigos in the Afterlife sees guests journey through a magical realm, encountering mischievous characters along the way. For over 20 years, Halloween has surprised and delighted visitors to Alton Towers. From the beginnings as Spooktacular through its evolution into Scarefest, the resort has always tried to innovate and expand, pushing in different directions while retaining a core identity. Families return every year to laugh and scream their way through the park, enjoying familiar favourites and taking on new challenges. Who knows what next year will bring, but you can be sure that Alton Towers will deliver another Spooktacular Scarefest.